Okay, hi, I'm Mr. Boyette, and today we're going to be talking about the scientific method. And the scientific method is a process that scientists use to investigate and do research and answer questions and solve problems. And really, it's a process that is the cornerstone of all science. And really, it's something that we all do intuitively. Anytime we have a problem in our life or any kind of problem at all, we always go through the scientific method, but most people don't realize that. If you were to get on Google and research the scientific method, you get many different ways of doing it. But really, it all comes down to a very simple process, and that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing, in order to have the scientific method, the first thing we have to have is a purpose or a problem, some reason for to our question to answer or a problem to solve. And so the one I always like to use is if you walk into your bedroom and you turn on the light switch and the light bulb is burned out or something like that, there's a problem, the light doesn't come on, that's whenever you jump right into action and use the scientific method. You just don't really realize it. Now, in order to solve that problem, the first thing you have to have is some level of knowledge. You got to have that knowledge. And so if you don't have knowledge about electricity or the problem you're trying to solve, then obviously you can't proceed to the next step. I mean, think about it. When you were 3 years old and you walked into your bedroom and the light was out, all you knew is that the light didn't come on and there was a problem. So you called mama and you said, Mom, and mom came in there and she went through the scientific method in order to solve the problem. And so the next step, after we have a little bit of knowledge about it, now we're able to ask a question. And the question is usually in the form of an if-then statement. If I do this, then this will happen. And so this is our question. It's really an educated guess. I mean, that's the first thing, and most of you already learned that in about the fifth grade. But it's really an if-then statement. And another thing is it's kind of important is it's got to be testable. If it's not testable, if it's not testable, then we can't really use it to do science. We can't actually test whether or not that's what's causing the problem. And so the next step, after we formulate our question, the next step is do the experiment. And the experiment is just the test. It's the actual testing of the hypothesis. And so in this case, my first hypothesis would be that if I jiggle the switch, maybe the light will come on. And so my experiment is I'm going to go ahead and jiggle that switch. And when I jiggle that switch, I have to actually collect data and analyze data. And so when I collect data from an experiment, that data is what answers my question or not. And so if I flip the switch and the light comes on, that's my data. If I flip the switch and the light does not come on, that's my data. But now, once I get that data, I have to form some kind of conclusion about what that data actually means. And what that data actually means, if the light came on, obviously we know we solved our problem. My hypothesis is correct. If I jiggle the switch, then the light came on. Or if the light didn't come on, I can conclude that my hypothesis was incorrect. And so at that point, if your hypothesis is incorrect, you're going to have to go back up and kind of start over. But where do we start over at? We got to start over at knowledge. I mean, knowledge is what helps us ask questions. So if we don't have the knowledge, then we don't know what's the next step, what's the next question. So if there is no knowledge there, then we have to either call somebody who has it. I mean, because think about it, the next step would be change the light bulb. And then the next step would be maybe check the circuit breaker. But how many of us really know what to do next? Well, there are people that do. They're called electricians. And so if you call an electrician, what does he have that you don't have? He has knowledge. And now the problem is what if you don't have the money to call or there is nobody to call? Then you have to go to this next part right here, and that's the research. And a lot of us jump to that whenever we don't know something. We automatically start doing the research. We go on, we Google it, and that helps us ask new questions. If we can ask new questions, then now we're actually going into an area that's really important in science, and that's being able to ask new questions and gain knowledge. And so as we ask these new questions and we do more and more research and we start to do experiments that have never been done before, then we can gain knowledge and we can write all that down and put it in a book, and that's exactly where your textbook came from. I mean, if you have a chemistry textbook, that's 400 years worth of scientific method. If you have a physics textbook, that's a good 500-600 years of scientific method. And so all of those books that you have are brought to you by the scientific method.